Hey, it's Miss Right here, and I am going to help you with today's assignment, which is using the quadratic formula practice problems. Okay, so in order to solve an equation using the quadratic equation or the quadratic formula, your equation has to be in this form: ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. This has to be a 0 before you determine the values of A, B, and C, and then use them in the formula. And then just to review, that formula x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, that whole thing divided by 2 times a. Okay? So in this number one problem, all you're doing is deciding what the A, B, and C values are for each equation. But before you can do that, again, the equation has to be equal to 0. So number one, already set equal to 0. And so our A value is 3. It's the coefficient of x squared. B is 8, the coefficient of x. And C is 4, the constant. In in part B, it's not set equal to 0. So we do that by subtracting the 10 from both sides. And that gives us 2x squared minus 5x. And then 2 minus 10 is negative 8. 10 minus 10 is 0. So it's set equal to 0. And we can say what A and B and C are. Remember, when there's a minus in front of the term, that makes your value negative. On C, there's a 7x over here, so we would start by subtracting the 7x. It's going to go under its like term on the left side, so that means it'll go under the 13x. And so we have negative 9x squared. 13x minus 7x is 6x. And then minus 1 equals 0. A is negative 9. B is 6. C is negative 1. All right, on D, we only have x squared on the left side of the equation. So since that's where the x squared is, I'm going to move the minus x and the plus 11 over to join the x squared by using the opposite operation. So instead of minus x, I will add x. And instead of plus 11, subtract 11. I'm just going to write it underneath. And so now it is x squared plus x minus 11. And since both of those are 0 now, it is equal to 0. All right, now we have two terms here that appear to not have a coefficient in front. Remember that there's always that coefficient of 1. So this is the same as 1x squared. This is the same as 1x. So in this example, A and B are both equal to 1, and C is equal to negative 11. And then in the last one here for number 1, you have some choices. We have x squared on both sides of the equation. A lot of people tend to not like to deal so much with negatives, so might want to add this x squared over, and we're just going to match it up under its like term on the other side. And if I'm going to move that one over, I have to also move the 25x and the 40. So move the 25x by subtracting, and move the 40 by subtracting. So now we have a total of, 3x squared. And then 9x minus 25x, that is negative 16x, so minus 16x. And then negative 24 minus 40 is negative 64. That all canceled out, so this is equal to 0. And so we can say A is 3, B is negative 16, and C is negative 64. All right. In number 2, we've got some quadratic equations. We're given the solution, and so your job is to show how to get there. So A, B, and C, because this is already equal to 0. A is 1, B is 9, C is 20. And so we just set up the formula. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C. So I'm just using the number values that I already defined as A, B, and C. All over 2A, 2 times 1. Okay, my next step, negative 9 goes here, plus or minus. I'm just going to make a small square root because I'm going to find this answer over 2 times 1 is 2. And I'll take a minute to find that answer. So I need to evaluate 9 squared minus 4 times 1 times 20. And it equals 1. That makes sense because 9 squared is 81. 4 times 1 times 20 is 80. So when you subtract, you just get 1. And since 1 is a perfect square, the square root of 1 is 1, I would go ahead and finish this. So this is equal to negative 9 plus or minus 1 divided by 2. Negative 9 plus 1 divided by 2, or negative 9 minus 1 divided by 2. So this is negative 8 divided by 2, which is negative 4. This is negative 10 divided by 2, which is negative 5. So x equals negative 4 and negative 5, just like it says it's going to. Okay, part B. We can see we're going to have a different kind of answer here. So when I look at the equation, I notice it is not equal to 0. So I'm going to make that happen by adding the 44. And we get 2x squared minus 20x plus 44 equals 0. So from here, A is 2, B is negative 20, and C is 44. All right, so I'll set up the quadratic formula. X equals negative B. B is already negative, so negative negative 20 plus or minus the square root. Make sure you use parentheses around the negative 20 squared minus 4 times 2 times 44 divided by 2a, 2 times 2. So next step, a little bit of cleanup. I'm going to clean up these 3 parts, that, and that. So negative negative 20 is just positive 20. And then I will calculate the number under the square root. So negative 20 squared minus 4 times 2 times 44. Okay, negative 20 squared. Notice I didn't use the square root. It equals 48, so I'm going to put a 48 under the square root there. And then divide by 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay, the 48, the square root of 48, it's not a perfect square. It just stays put. It just stays there. I can't do any simplifying with it because it's locked into that radical. But I can break apart, do 20 divided by 4 plus or minus the square root of 48 divided by 4. And the only part of this that can be simplified further is the 20 divided by 4, which is 5. So x equals 5 plus or minus the square root of 48 divided by 4. That's the answer. Okay, on part C. Again, this one is not set equal to 0. So I'll move the 5x over. It's going to go between 3x squared and 1. Three x squared minus 5x plus 1 equals 0. So a is 3, b is negative 5, c is 1. So setting up the formula, x equals negative b, negative negative 5, plus or minus the square root, negative 5 in parentheses squared, minus 4 times 3 times 1, all divided by 2 times 3. Okay, again, now that I've got everything plugged into the formula, I'm going to clean up those 3 parts. Negative negative 5 is just 5. I'm going to find that square root number in a minute. 2 times 3 is 6. Now I'm ready to find the value of what's called the discriminant. The expression under the square root sign is called the discriminant. Okay, so I typed that in. I got 13. And notice this looks really similar to the expected solution. It's just been broken apart. So x equals 5, 6 plus or minus the square root of 13, 6. Final answer. Okay, and finally, problem D. Problem D, 2x squared minus 3x equals 15. It needs to equal 0, so subtract the 15. And we get 2x squared minus 3x minus 15 equals 0. A is 2. B is negative 3. C is negative 15. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, one more time. We clean up in 3 places. 1, 2, 3. Okay, negative negative 3 is just equal to 3. Find that square root. 2 times 2 is 4. So let's, oh, activity bus is leaving. Let's go ahead and calculate the discriminant. So negative 3 squared minus 4 times A times C is 129. That goes there. Again, this looks really close to our final answer. We just break this apart. So it's 3/4 plus or minus the square root of 129 fourths. That's our final answer. All right, so I hope this video was helpful in answering any homework questions that you have.